was born in 1967, and I studied at the State Academy of Music in Oslo, and I also went to New York and studied at the Juilliard School there. So, to make this story very short, I have always been very interested in opera, and from I was a very little kid, I listened to my father's recordings of operas, and then I figured out that the National Opera came to my little hometown of Skien on tour. So I was forcing myself as I think 7-year-old to go and see Il Trovatore. And what was so exciting was that I had heard the highlights at home. You know, I had heard the arias, the most famous arias. I went to see Carmen as well, but I didn't know the music in between. And that was the most exciting thing for me, to see how a composer could develop a music and to suddenly hear some snippets of a famous aria coming again, you know, in a recitative or in an orchestra interlude, and so from I was very little, I was very interested in composing for the stage and telling a story through music. So all through my education, I worked as a pianist, I worked as a conductor, I was a rehearsal pianist for opera companies, and I also was an assistant stage director once at the National Opera. So I decided to learn the craft from within the opera house. And I think that that is very much important, because for an opera composer you have to know all of the other things, not just your own little music. So I was very happy to have that possibilities. So I have written now, I think I have written 5 operas. It depends on how you define them. And I've written also several musicals. And for the National Opera, I have now had 3 different productions. The first was a children's opera in 1995, which was called George's Marvelous Medicine, based on the famous children's book by Roald Dahl. And then The Fourth Watch of the Night came, and that was in 2005. And then 2 years ago, they produced my opera on the new stage, and that was a setting of Around the World in 80 Days by Gisle Kverndokk, which was a big production on the new stage with all of the ensemble and the children's choir and, you know, elephants, everything. So I have been very lucky to get my works performed. Also, I've done several musicals that kind of borders into opera in several places, also in Germany. So I have to say that I have learned the craft as I went along. And I think to write an opera, you have to try it out, you have to experience it. And even so hard and horrible it can be, that's the only way to learn how to write operas. This opera came along because I think because in 1998 or 99, I was in a TV studio, and I was a guest in a program together with the former artistic director of the opera, Bjørn Simensen. And we were waiting all day, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. So we started to talk, and then he said, because they had produced my little children's opera, and he said, so maybe you want to write a big opera for us? And I said, of course. And you know, there are so many conversations like that, and they never come to anything. So I thought, oh, it's something he just says. But then he called me a couple of days later, and he said that we should meet, and I have some ideas. And we started to talk about what kind of opera are we interested in. And we agreed very much that we wanted to write an opera that had that was rooted in the Norwegian tradition, something that was about our traditions, a story in a Norwegian environment. And he had some ideas, and I had an idea. And but the most important thing was that it was a story that could be set anywhere, that had a universal setting in a way. So I suggested Den fjerde nattevakt by Johan Falkberg, this novel. And Bjørn, he said, okay, let's forget about my ideas because this I really like. And the thing was that there were several independent people, sources, that had suggested that for me. That if you write an opera, what about Den fjerde nattevakt, the fourth watch of the night? And I knew this author, Johan Falkberg, because he was one of the most famous and popular authors, writers in the 20th century. Maybe not so much today, but my parents' generation loved his books, and his books have often been transformed into theater and film. So there have been very famous theater productions of this also, Den fjerde nattevakt, but also films like, for instance, one of the last books he wrote was this trilogy called Nattens brød, The Bread of Night. And one of the books, Anna-Gritt, were turned into a very successful movie with Liv Ullmann in the main part in 1969. So that's one of the most famous Norwegian films ever. So his writing were very dramatic and very colorful, and he had a great sense of the human beings, you know, both tragic and also very humorous. So, so it was a subject that really could suit a musical setting on the stage. Johan Falkberg, he was born in 1879, and he was born in Røros. And Røros, it's a small town in the middle of Norway. It's in a county called Sør-Trøndelag, South Trøndelag, just south of Trondheim, if you know Trondheim. And this town is very famous because of the mine industry. And the copper mines were founded already in 1645. And it's one of the most famous and extensive mine industries in Norway. And the last mine was shut down in 1978. So I mean, it's been a long way. And Johan Falkberg, he came from a miner's family. His father was working down in the mines, and he himself, when he was a little kid, had to work there because the kids, you know, they could crawl, you know, down in the small, you know, tunnels down there. So he had a rough, tough upbringing in the mines. But he started to write books and write about his experiences and write about the story of the mines. So all of his books have a history, are from this society, this society. And Røros is today a city with around 3,700 people living in the main area. And the old center is very famous, and it's on the World Heritage List of UNESCO. It's very beautiful. All the old wooden houses are intact. It's exactly as how the characters in this opera experienced it. And the church there is very famous and very beautiful. Røros is also the coldest place in Norway. It's you know, in the inland, and it gets really cold there. And the record is from 1914, and that was minus 50.4 degrees. And each day on the radio I listen to the weather forecast, and they always say, you know, that Oslo has 0 degrees, Gardermoen has -1, and you know, and then Røros -25. It's always way colder there than other places in Norway. So they used to say that because it's lots of snow there and ice, and they use this kind of, I don't know what you call this kind of carriage, is this where you can travel on the snow, you know, with this iron kind of, I don't know what it's called, spark in Norwegian, you know, that you can rush. And they always use that in the roads. And they say the summer is so short that you could just sit on that for a while and then it's over, and then it's back to the winter again. So you don't have to put in your skis or anything, just wait and then it's winter. So it's very cold, but it's beautiful. It's fantastic nature, and it's a special light in that area that is undescribable. So you wrote about this setting, and I decided that this novel was perfect. And why? Well, because not only does it have a very beautiful story, it's a wonderful love story, and it's a universal love story, but he describes the nature in such a way that it's very musical. So I got very much inspired by that. He always has these kind of musical expressions in the way he writes. And I will get back to this, but the folk music tradition in this part of Norway is also very interesting and very well developed, because when the mine workers came to Røros, we needed experts, you know, actually in the 17th and 18th century. So a lot of people from Germany, from France, from Poland, from Sweden came to Røros, and because they were experts on mining industries, but they also brought their own music. So a lot of the folk music in this part of Norway derives from party music, dance music, from Central Europe. So there was an extensive music community in this town as well. And Johan Falkberg, he knew about that, and he knew the music, and he wrote about it. To get this going, I needed to have a collaborator, because I write the music, but I don't write the words. So I contacted my good friend and a collaborator. We had worked a lot before on different projects. His name is Ivar Tindberg, and he is one of the most successful stage directors in Norway today, and he specializes in music theater. But this was his first opera. We had done a radio opera before, he and me. But this was his first big opera as an opera director and librettist. But he had a long experience of dramatizations of novels and different kinds of things. So he and I started to work. Before I go into the process, I can explain the title, because it's very strange. Den fjerde, nattevakt, the fourth watch of the night. I tried to find the right English translation, and I think that is the best translation. And it has nothing to do with guards in the night or people watching after each other in the night. It is from the Bible, and it's from Matthew 14, the 14th chapter. And it's that sentence where they say that Jesus walked on the water. And it says, and in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. He came to his disciples on the sea, where it had been a storm. And a night watch, a watch of the night, is a way of dividing the night that the old Romans did. And it was 4 watches, and it started at 6 o'clock in the evening and went to 6 o'clock in the morning. And the last part, 3 hours, from 3 to 6, was the 4th night watch. And it was the darkest hours in the night. So this means that Falkberg, he writes about the darkest hours in a human being's life. You know, when we are at the utmost, that we are in most despair, and it can't be darker, it only has to be lighter. So it's a very strange title actually, but it's beautiful, I think, and I think it's very, very poetic. So that's the title, The Fourth Watch of the Night. And then maybe I will just tell you very quickly the story of the opera. The opera, or the novel, is set in around 1800. And the priest Benjamin Sigismund, he comes from Copenhagen up to this little cold place, Røros, to be the new minister in this, as we call Bergstaden, the mountain town. It's very common to say Bergstaden about Røros as well. So, and he comes there with his wife, Katarina, and his two sons. And he